Genesis chapter 38, verse 12. In the course of time, the wife of Judah, Shua's daughter, died. When Judah was comforted, he went up to Timnah to his sheep shearers, he and his friend Hurah the Adullamite. Okay, so now Tamar, already 2 of his sons died. The youngest is growing up. Tamar is waiting for him to get married to Shelah, and Judah's wife dies. So there was a mourning time. Now the interesting time of mourning. Now the interesting thing is like, okay, so he was comforted. Was he? I mean, from the story, was he really that sad about her dying? I don't know. Okay, so anyhow, earlier in the chapter we met the friend Hurah the Adullamite, the one who actually helped him in getting right, doing the wrong thing. And here the friend is going to help him do the wrong thing again. Okay, so it's mentioned. So he is taking him, Judah, again away from the road, from the straight and the narrow, to put it like that, into the wrong place. So it's time to for the sheep to be sheared, and so he went over there. And normally, like at the end of this whole shearing time, they have a big feast. And so this is most likely as well what he was going to join in this feast more than anything else. So like after the death, being comfortable, now he's a free man and he can go and do whatever he wants to. Kind of this is going on here, right? I've already explained, you can go and listen to the other videos. I already explained that this is kind of the guy Judah was, because otherwise Tamar would not have been able to catch him the way she did. Verse 13. And when Tamar was told, your father-in-law is going up to Timnah to shear his sheep, she took off her widow's garments and covered herself with a veil, wrapping herself up, and sat at the entrance to Enaim, which is on the road to Timnah. For she saw that Selah was grown up, and she had not been given to him in marriage. Okay, so she's informed about this. Story spread. Again, I've told you in other videos as well, it's not as if they lived in bubbles and didn't hear what's going on in the rest of the world. Story spread, the story came to her, she knew he's going up there, and she knew as well what that implied, him going there, the feast, the drunkenness, all of that involved, and the kind of person Judah was, and how it would be possible therefore for her. And she, I mean, at the same time as well, she knew that Shelah was old enough for him to marry her, and Judah is doing nothing to give him to her. So in other words, she kind of understood that most likely this is not going to go anywhere, right? And that is kind of the problem here. And so her hand was forced. The situation played into this. It's not as if she wanted to do this, sure not. She was waiting in the right way for Judah to keep his word. He wasn't keeping his word, so she had to take things into, or make a plan in this whole situation, how to then get what is legally hers, as well to take care of the offspring for her and Onan ultimately, right? So yeah, sure, she's doing the right thing all the time. Judah is doing the wrong thing all the time. Right, so she took off the widow's garments. Again, that is a clear sign that she still was wearing the garments, so she was not sleeping around while she was waiting. She was faithful to a future husband, which ought to have been Shelah, right? Which turned out to be Judah, right? And so she took all of this off, wrapped herself, and she went to the entrance. Now, were there kind of that there used to be lots of prostitutes hanging out there or something like that? I mean, you get certain areas on this planet, certain places. I remember there was this place in St. Petersburg there in Russia, which he called it Veselaya Derevnya, and it's like Happy Village or something like that. It's part of St. Petersburg. And I remember that I was riding one time with a Russian brother there in Christ. And I saw these girls standing there all at the side of the road and signaling. They were like dressed in like short skirts and all makeup and stuff like that. And lo and behold, I was like, I don't know if I'm 23 or 24 then. and off the farm, and I saw that, and I kind of asked him, so where are all these girls going? Like, they're all standing and waving cars down to. It's interesting, kind of, that they all need a ride to get home. And actually, they were not there to get a ride to get home, but actually they were prostitutes working the streets there. A few times in my life, I remember as well, one time in London, kind of walking around London, and this big woman came up to me, black woman. It doesn't matter the skin. The other people in St. Petersburg, they were white, but she was like, she came like a prostitute, kind of, and I was like, okay, no thanks. And another time in Moscow at the train station as well, this girl came up to me, and so I don't know if all of these or of this, it's seemingly kind of not the case, right? Because when later on we're going to see, it seems at the point that this is not kind of a normal high waiting place for prostitutes, but especially these kinds of prostitutes, which he kind of named her later on. But that's not the point. This is where she's waiting. She knows he will pass by there, and or it might have been a known place, and so therefore she knows that he might come to this place, and she is there. But anyhow, let's continue with the story and see how it goes on. What will happen? Verse 15. When Judah saw her, he thought she was a prostitute, for she had covered her face. Okay, so he saw her face covered, and that now seemingly, according to the text states here, meant that she might be a prostitute. Okay, yeah, there's certain cultures these days where all women have to, or certain religions where all women have to cover their faces. Now that is the fact that shows that she's married, right, and not a prostitute. Okay, so in this case, all being covered, the face being covered, that means she's, at least in their culture, it meant that she was a prostitute. While today in Muslim culture, for example, that implies that the girl is not a prostitute, but that she's married. Okay, so again, don't draw conclusions just because time and cultures and everything differ. So never make that mistake, and lots of people do make mistakes like these. Face covered. Kind of, no, sorry, not like this with a cap only, but totally covered. So he thought she's a prostitute. Didn't ask, he just thought so. Verse 16. He turned to her at the roadside and said, "Come, let me come into you." For he did not know that she was his daughter-in-law. She said, "What will you give me that you may come into me?" Okay, so he saw his wife. He wants to come into her, like with his wife, right? So in a very simple way, right? And there's no, Judah is not a good guy, right? Let's face it, Judah is not a good guy. His eyes, he's thinking with the wrong part of the male anatomy, for sure. And so he's in for a quick fling here, kind of idea, getting rid of his problems, or his wants to pleasure himself. He doesn't care about her. When she's a prostitute, she can be used whichever way. Okay, and this is what I want. Okay, and she is like, and what you normally would like give a prostitute something, which is still the prostitution, the oldest job on this planet seemingly. And actually the oldest job would be farming, not prostitution, because Adam was a farmer. He was not a prostitute. Okay, but she asked now for something here in return. So what are you going to give me if you come into me? Verse 17, he answered, "I will send you a young goat from the flock." And she said, "If you give me a pledge until you send it." He said, "What pledge shall I give you?" She replied, "Your signet and your cord and your staff that's in your hand." So he gave them to her and went into her, and she conceived by him. Verse 19, then she arose and went away, and taking off her veil, she put on the garments of a widowhood. Okay, so she says, okay, you give me something in return, which would be normal, okay? He said, okay, I will send you this young goat from the flock. Is that a good price, or is that not a good price? Again, I guess you need to go into the culture of the day to understand if that is now a good price. Is he giving the bare minimum here, or is he giving a maximum kind of idea? But that, again, that's not the problem. Okay, so this is what I'll give to you. right? And but now in the meantime, understandably, he does not have this goat with him from the flock. So she said, okay, so give me this pledge that you will do it, because I mean, now you say you are in with me, you know me, we have sexual intercourse, and then you just disappear, okay? Like men getting women pregnant and then they disappear into the night, and then the woman either needs to get an abortion, which is wrong, and the men disappearing is wrong. But two wrongs doesn't make a right, and then or the woman is just left with the child out of wedlock, which yeah, never a good thing. So she makes sure. So what can you give, and what is she asking for? So what do you want from me? And she said, okay, the signet, the cord, and the staff, everything that will show to whom this belong, because it's not like he went into the forest over here, broke down a piece of wood and then made a staff for himself and then used that as a staff. No, it was a staff with his signature on it, so people would know this is like Aaron's staff later on. This is Judah's staff, right? And the signet and the cord, all these things would be stuff on him showing to whom it belonged, right? So he gave it to her, and then, understandably, they had intercourse because she got pregnant. Lo and behold, she conceived by him, and then she took off all the clothes again and put on her veil, and then put on the garments of widowhood. So she returned to the role of the widow. Okay. Now that does not imply that before other times she did this, and now it's so it's like as if she wasn't faithful to her husband. Okay, sorry, but this is a little bit hot here and kind of sweat dripping down my eyes. Anyhow, so this is not. Yeah, so as if it implies that other times she did as well. It seems clearly that she was faithful, and this was forced on her. This action of prostituting herself out to her father-in-law was forced upon her because the line needs to go on, and she is supposed to take the line further, because Shelah ought to be given. She is the daughter-in-law. Shelah ought to be given to her. If he's not given to her, then they're not going to have children. Then the line of Judah is not going to go anywhere, right? So she's actually, or heir, or honor, none of their lines are going to go anywhere. So she's actually doing the exact right thing here, while Judah is doing the wrong thing here. Okay, now in this instance, again, two wrongs don't make a right. But as far as culturally and in this instance morally correct, she is the one being correct, because he was so wrong. Okay, again, it does not justify her actions, but her actions was forced upon her because of Judah.